Hey everybody, welcome to Casual Shenanigans Tech, episode 6, long overdue, with me, one of your hosts, Jeremiah, with other host, Dave.
I am other host.
Welcome, other host. Alright, so, let's start the show with tech news, yay.
Is it tech news first or rig report first?
The rig report is after that.
Cool.
So tech news, all we have this week, rumors abound that there is a dual Fury X coming out soon.
Ooh.
So because of the crazy awesome water cooler, they're like, hey, we can totally stick two of these bad boys, you know, on one board. And they're probably going to be doing it, which is interesting because Furies and Fury X's are back ordered everywhere. AMD cannot make them fast enough to keep up with demand.
I had not heard that yet.
Yeah, oh yeah, they've like they're months behind. So this, you know, dual slot version, or not dual slot, but dual GPU version might be really cool when it comes out. If you want to deal with AMD Crossfire, which I wouldn't want to, but that is an option you can do probably sometime this holiday season. And then also AMD's Zen architecture, it's their next big CPU thing. Coming out probably next year. And, you know, every single time we hear that this is the time that AMD is going to become competitive with Intel. But this time they're advertising things like 8 cores with hyper-threading, or their version of hyper-threading, and like their per core performance, which is always Intel's big thing. They're advertising it, or they're teasing that it's going to be like as good as Intel's or better.
I want it to be true. Please be true.
I'd very much like it to be true. I don't care how much they need to charge, but they just need to be competitive. So yeah, we'll see. But that's all that's going on in the wonderful wide world of major tech news. Like, there aren't really any big graphics cards coming out yet. We can expect to see new stuff this holiday season. We can expect other things to happen, but right now, not a whole lot's happening.
So I have short-term memory.
Yes.
The latest NVIDIA series launched in September of last year, right?
Something like that, yeah.
But generally, it's not every 12 months for a release cycle.
It's not exactly every 12 months. I think it's closer to like 15 months usually.
So I guess the next launch will be like early next year, most likely then.
Probably. I mean, the 980 Ti is selling like gangbusters, so I don't think they're under really any obligation to sell more.
Yeah, I feel like if NVIDIA had just lowered the price a bit, they would sell a like illegal amount of them because they're already selling so many. Like, it would cross some kind of line. They're fantastic.
I mean, if you were just playing like 1080p or 1440p, it would be like the best card I could possibly imagine. At 4K, it's a very good option. I mean, it's the best option, probably. A Fury X is technically better if you can get your hands on one at 4K. But yeah, it's a great graphics card, so more power to them. But anyway, it's now time for the rig report. Done. Have you done anything to your computer lately?
Actually, I was thinking for the rig report for me is just that, man, this is a dependable computer right now. I love just how...
Meaning you haven't overclocked it in a while.
That's the thing, is I'm still at 4.1, but I mean, I've had 2 blue screens this year, and both of them were GPU related. That's... I mean, I've done freelance work, 3D, I've done video stuff. I mean, I've done an insane amount of video rendering. It's taken all of it. Like, it's just so stable. It's insane. I love it. It's just so dependable.
Let's see, for me, I don't think I've done anything lately. I'm still tossing around the idea of maybe a 1 terabyte SSD, but I don't need it yet.
It's really just for future proofing. I mean, I thought with like a 60 gig GTA 5 and with Witcher 3 and all, I'm like, man, I'm gonna need all this space for like mods and all this other stuff, and man, I can't fill it up. I still have 470 gigs left. I can't fill it right now. Yeah,
based on what I need it for, a 480 to 500 gig would be perfect, but I don't want to buy one of those and then in a year from now be going, I should have just spent the rest, you know? So
that's the tough part, yeah.
Because that's where I'm at with my 240 gig. So I have all these SSDs stacking up. Like, I'm going to have 120 I use as like a scratch photo editing drive, and then I have this 240 as my boot drive, and that's going to become something. I guess I could stick it in this home theater computer build I'm kind of dreaming up at the moment, but yeah, that's about it. I
guess for an actual rig report, I've been very happy on my work computer. I finally added a USB 3 card. Had to do a ridiculous, like, just redneck rig of, what did I convert to? It goes from the power supply to a SATA power, like 6 ports of SATA power, to a 2 SATA power to 3 Molex split, to a 12-inch Molex extender, and from that right into finally the USB 3 module. But having USB 3 is nice, as you might imagine. I use a lot of hard drives.
Do you actually need USB 3 for anything work related, or is it really just for like rendering gaming stuff?
Yeah, actually, I move a lot of textures back and forth, and I have like all my texture libraries and stuff are on my portable drive, because that's things like, man, that's got to be close to like 70 gigs or so. And also, I rendered to TIFF, and if you do like an iPad resolution, 300 frame alpha TIFF render, that's quite a few gigs of stuff to watch creep by on USB 2.
Yeah,
it's awful. And then, just for the extra bit of convenience, in honor of Joel, we could say, I got some USB 3 extenders for the outside because the ports are on the back. It's like a 6-inch, just like, I don't have to reach behind the computer. And it's really funny, like, it's not that big of a deal, but it's really just nice to not have to stand up and, like, I hate plugging things into the back of my computer. I really do hate that.
Well,
does that bother you so much?
Well, every week before the podcast, I have to sit on the floor. I have a flashlight mounted underneath my desk for this purpose.
Oh, no.
And I have to scoot underneath my desk, and not to make the normal jokes Joel makes, but it's hard for me to fit under my desk. Turn on the flashlight, and then I have to swap a whole bunch of audio cables to send the audio to all the different places I want it to go for the podcast. And then every time I do potato masher testing, I have to swap USB cables and HDMI cables between the potato masher and my computer to get the Elgato game capture running.
No.
So there's a fair bit of under the desk scooting around. So yeah, I do plug a lot into the back of my computer. I guess probably a couple times a week I'm under there messing with stuff. But I mean, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't bother me that much unless I forget to do something, because then I have to like hang up my headphones, shove my chair out of the way, plop down, start scooting under there. I mean, there's very first world problems, but it's definitely not the professional way to handle any of that. Like, I would never be doing that in a workplace, I don't think, but at home, who cares?
It's just an example of, I can't agree with Joel on some stuff. Like, sometimes the small things do just get really annoying and like under your skin, like having to dig behind your computer for cables.
Yeah, but if I had a Mac, I wouldn't have the 15 USB 3 ports I have, so,
Yeah, my computer is an octopus with a video card inside.
One of the best things I ever got was a 9-port USB splitter.
Oh my.
It's a powered splitter. It's USB 3. Now, every single port can't get full USB 3 speed at one time. Sure. But I have a bunch of USB 3 devices plugged into it. So most of them are just getting power or a trickle of information. But every once in a while, when one of them needs full speed, it gets pretty dang good speed. So I do have USB 3. It's just kind of spread out a little bit. But, USB 3 is faster than most SATA hard drives, or every SATA hard drive. So it's not that big a deal. It's faster than all my SD cards for my cameras and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, you ready to answer some emails?
Let's do it.
So you can write into the show, casualshenanigans@gmail.com, and we answer tech questions on this show. This is the little brother podcast to Casual Shenanigans Gaming. We do answer questions on there, but we can't answer as many as we receive, so we answer the rest of them on Casual Shenanigans Tech. So our first email is from Harris Ahmed. Now, confession time, he emailed us in August, and somehow we lost his email in the inbox.
Dropped the ball.
I file them all usually. So he emailed us back and was like, hey, actually, since, you didn't respond to me, he saved up some more money and he's ready to go with a better build. So here's what he originally said, combined with what he's saying now. So I would like to ask you guys, about a budget gaming PC that I'm planning to build in the future. I am a beginner at this stuff, and this will be my first gaming PC. Also, I'm not from the US, and the prices in my country are very different from the US, so I'd like you to take a look at my build and replace parts with better parts, which would be good for my requirements. Another important thing is that AMD processors are not easily available in my country and also expensive, so it's not a valid option for me. My target is to play 1080p at all the upcoming games like Fallout 4, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Arkham Knight, Witcher 3, GTA 5, etc. He wants high settings with frame rates anywhere between 30 and 40. 60 FPS is cool. He says he doesn't think he has that much budget though. And then he sent us a new list and says he wants to game at 1080p. He's going with the 1151 socket because he wants to be good for future upgrades, which I guess that means Harris believes that Intel will put out more than one processor on that socket. Good luck. And he said he chose a better power supply on the second list he sent us because I'm following your podcast for a while now, and that's what I learned. You should never go with a cheap power supply. Good man. He said, I'm confused about the graphics card on the list, which we're about to read. He said, I need your help deciding between an R9 380 2GB version, an R9 380 4GB version, or an R9 280X, which is a 3GB version. Which one is the best for the money? Thanks again for helping me out here, guys. Just skip my old build and let me know what you guys think about my new build. So, Dave, can you tell us what is his build? What list did he send us on PC Part Picker?
We have here an Intel Core i5 6500 non-K edition, just the standard.
Which I'm actually, sorry, I'm really impressed. Yeah. The price is only $205.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cheap for an Intel quad core.
Well, all right, if we're gonna deviate for a second, what is the latest i5K?
Would it be the 6600K? 6500K?
Okay, so it would be the last gen K then. It was a...
Oh, the 4670K.
4670K. That is got an extra number on the front. Let's try that again. Yeah, so I was really surprised. A 4690K is $235 brand new.
4670K?
4690K.
Okay, they've come out. See, that's the thing. In the last generation, they had a couple different versions. So yeah, the 4670K, 4690K. I have the 4790K, which makes it even more confusing. But yeah, the Intel processors have been creeping up in price. I mean, I guess with inflation, it's not that ridiculous, but they've definitely been creeping up. So it's kind of cool.
This isn't bad that I actually was saying that I was quite surprised that was reasonable. I thought, I know it's not hyper threaded, but that's not a terrible price for the unlocked. I know that I paid, well, I guess that's not great because if I think back to my i7 930, I only paid $329 for that, and it was 8 cores and or 4 cores with hyper threading. For $329 in 2010. So yeah, I guess it's not great. It's just I don't know why that felt lower than I thought it was.
It's not a bad price anyway.
Yeah. That rabbit trail is going nowhere. Yeah, he has a standard i5 6500, which is 3.2 gigahertz, a gigabyte micro ATX. That's a bit of an unusual choice.
If you're just gaming, it's not. I guess it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, but generally with micro ATX, you've got less graphics card options for if you want to do multiple graphics cards. I wouldn't, but if you want the option, it's harder to find. And less memory, usually, too.
Never thought I'd hear the day when the evil Viking 13 said, if you want to do multiple graphics cards, I don't. Dark days are upon us.
As I lovingly clutch my 980 Ti. Shh, never again.
Anyway.
He's got 2 4-gig sticks of Corsair Vengeance, 1 terabyte Seagate, Asus Radeon R9 280X is with one he just has, I guess, on the build right now. Corsair 200R mid-tower case, which does not require a micro ATX board, so that's a bit confusing. But then a Corsair 550 watt 80 plus gold power supply. Ooh, modular, or semi-modular, but still.
Yes. So our first assumption is you either already own this graphics card or you know you're getting it because you don't have one listed that has a price. So we'll assume that you have a plan for that. But he does ask what's better, an R9 380 with 2 gigs or 4 gigs of VRAM or an R9 280X. The 280X is a faster card. 10-15% faster. 3 gigabytes of VRAM is going to be fine for the next quite a few years. Obviously 4 gigs would be nice, but I would not be worried at all about having 3 gigs of VRAM. So yep, 280X, better card. So what do you think of the rest of his build?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of stuck on the micro ATX motherboard. I just don't see it as like a number one choice. There may be a reason he wanted that particular one, perhaps.
I'm guessing it was $85. I'm guessing that was just what was cheap. I mean,
yeah. You go over with the rest. Let me look at motherboards for LGA 1151.
I mean, in that price range, there are plenty of, well, not plenty. There aren't that many boards because it's a DDR4 board, but there are regular ATX boards. I would suggest to get a regular ATX board. Like, there's no reason not to. For the money, it looks like the ASRock H170 Pro 4S. I'm going to go ahead and add it to my list in case unless you find something else, because this is the list I'm going to send to him. The thing I'm curious about on his memory, he's buying 2 separate 4 gig stick options. I don't know what DDR4 is going for right this moment. Let me see if we can get like one 8 gigabyte package. Well, yes, of course, we can get one 8 gigabyte package for quite a bit cheaper.
That's the way to go.
Yep, we can get, so he had a DDR4 2400 RAM. We're going to get DDR4 2133 RAM. You will not notice the difference in almost everything. This is one 8 gig stick instead of 2 4 gig sticks. And you can get this for $46 instead of the $60 he'd be spending on the 2 4 gig packages. So for that motherboard, does that ASRock look fine to you?
Yeah, and just as a secondary option, I'm seeing a few more here. Possibly the Asus B150 Plus.
What's that going for?
9198. It's got a bit more memory than the ASRock. Or not the one you picked out, but the other one I'm looking at.
Because ASRock supports 64 gigs. Yeah. I was going to hope that was all right.
Those are really the only 2 options I'm seeing in that price range.
Okay.
The Asus and the ASRock.
Okay. I'm going to leave the ASRock on there. You know, depending on what's available in your country, just look at whatever is an ATX board by like ASRock, Asus, Gigabyte. They're probably all fine. The reason we suggest ATX is if you want to expand later, it's easy to add stuff, but you can't make the motherboard bigger. And you are getting a great case, a 200R. I've used it quite a few times, and it can hold full ATX motherboards, so there's no reason not to get one. If you were going to change anything about this build, what would you change?
For me personally, I don't use a CPU that I can't overclock, so I go for a K.
But it's his very first build.
If this is his first build, he's not overclocking, and this is what he wants, that is a fantastic CPU. Don't worry about it.
And it's a brand new Intel chipset. The per core performance is going to be the best of whatever they've got. And like, it's going to be great for gaming. You know, it's not going to bottleneck him or anything for years. Yeah. It's a solid choice. And by the time, you know, if he ever wants to upgrade, he can sell that processor, add $100 to it or something, get a K and overclock if he feels like it.
Outside of that, you know, SSDs are always nice if you can fit them into the budget. And I recently picked up, and this is kind of, it's really like a US PC part sale kind of thing. Got a 128 gig SSD for $34 shipped. That's not an everyday thing, but if you can stretch your budget just a bit, generally you want to add the SSD, you know, up front, install the OS on it. You don't want to go back and do that later. It's a bit of a pain. So look at that now if you want to do that. Just consider it before you go any further, maybe.
Yeah, I would say because like they're so cheap these days, even if you get one and just install Windows on it, it will make your life a lot easier. Like I'm looking right now, and if you wanted to get kind of silly,
oh dear,
we can get a 32 gig Crucial for $35. That's obviously too small. You can't install anything on it.
That's not a good price per gig either.
It's not, but if you keep your eye out for around $50, you can very easily get an 120 gig SSD. If you want to add it to your build, it will make your life a lot easier. Install everything on your mechanical drive. It'll be totally fine for games. So I'm not going to add that to this list we're going to be sending you. But just so you know, that's a good option. Whatever is cheap and available in your country, we can never recommend SSDs highly enough. Like SSDs are always the right decision.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing that turns your computer, your traditional desktop computer, into like an appliance or something. It just like you hit the button and it just works. It does all its tasks. It's fantastic.
Anything else you change about Harris's build?
Nope.
All right, cool. Next one is from Callum. It says, "Hi guys, Callum from Kent in England. I currently have a very budget build, which I'm looking to upgrade, also on a budget. I play some older games okay right now, and all indie games are fine, but any older AAA titles have to be on the lowest settings, and recent titles just won't run. My specs are as follows. He has an AMD A6 6400K APU, overclocked to 4.3 gigahertz with a stock cooler, so he has no graphics card. It's just the APU, so it's the GPU and the CPU on one chip. I mean, I know you knew that, but for the benefit of everyone else. And he has 4 gigs of HyperX Fury RAM, an ASRock motherboard, 320 gig hard drive, and a Zalman case. Basically, he says, I want to play games at 720p or 1080p at medium settings at a solid 30 to 40 FPS. That would be totally fine. I'm not a graphics snob, so Xbox 360 quality is fine for me as long as frame rates are smooth. I enjoy RPGs and am big into single player as I like to lose myself in a deep story. The Elder Scrolls games and the first 2 Witcher titles are big hits with me. I also started to play World of Warcraft and The Lord of the Rings Online recently. This all needs to be done as cheap as possible, but I'm also not going to set a budget as I don't want to restrict you guys to a certain price point. Just suggest what you would do. It's not a case of I don't want to spend more. I just can't right now. Money's tight at the moment, but I still want to be able to play all the games that I pick up in Steam sales and Humble Bundles, etc. I'm in the UK, so everything being in pounds would be helpful."
Okay.
All right, so what do you recommend for Callum? Cheap graphics solution. I think his processor is fine. It's the A6 6400 APU, overclocked to 4.3 gigahertz. Obviously, an Intel's better for gaming. Everyone knows that. But
that's a good overclock, and
the cheap option is keep the processor.
Yes, yeah, always. Do nothing.
And then just buy a graphics card. So he doesn't really have a budget, but he just wants to be able to game at Xbox 360 quality at medium settings at 720p or 1080p. I think we can do better than that for you, buddy. Like, I think we're going to shoot a little bit higher than that. So given the rest of his build, this is a $300 to $350 build, brand new, nothing on sale. What are you thinking? Like, how much would you want to spend on a graphics card to complement this build without wasting money?
I'm digging deep here. I'm thinking AMD for the graphics card too.
Okay, I'm curious to hear why.
Let's assume new for budgets.
Okay,
yeah, for new. I mean, the new Witcher title is not a GPU easy game, so.
Yeah, but he wants to play on just okay settings. He's not like throw out everything you think.
This is where I'm struggling. Like I want to lean cheaper. What about a 960?
Oh, okay. You're thinking a little higher than I was.
You think so?
I'd go for a 950 if you're going to go for anything, because that's going to be a little bit faster than the GTX 760 that's in the potato masher. And we all know that's a really great card. You can get an Asus 950 for 120 pounds from some retailer I've never heard of, but Callum probably has because they're British or they're in Europe. And then I'm also gonna say a 750 Ti if you want to spend less money. That is 87 pounds. So an important thing to keep in mind is we don't know what his power supply is, so we don't know how much power we can spin on a graphics card. A 750 Ti is a power sipper. I think most of them even get their power through the motherboard. So, like, it's not really a big deal how much power that thing uses, but a 950 is going to use more. So, Callum, I mean, if you want to spend 960 money, you can. I think a 950 is a really good sweet spot right now. but like we could be way off on how much money he wants to spend on this thing. So I'm going to say like a 950 is your good option for 120 pounds. And a 750 Ti is a great option for 87 pounds. And either of those will do what you want to do. Like either of those will be totally fine cards. And then let's see if we can give them an option and we're going to email you all these links, of course. Let's see if we can give an option that's a little bit cheaper, like a pretty budget option. Because you and me, our first thought's probably like, what can we get used? But
yeah, and actually, I'm still drawing a blank here. Is there anything that AMD has? Like, what is their equivalent to say the 950 or the 960 right now? Because that's where
that would be blank. That'd be the 270 or the 270X.
270. Okay, that's what I was trying to find. Okay.
I would say for your budget option, you want to really cut some money off of it. For 69 pounds, the Radeon HD 7770 gigahertz edition.
Okay.
Is a good card, with the caveat that you need to have a decent power supply for that or the 950. Now, if it were me, I would want to get the better card. This card will be good to you, though. This card will do nice stuff. It's perfectly capable without knowing more about what you want to spend. Like I understand. Like I'm not trying to sound like you had to give us a budget, Callum. But I don't want to assume too much because for all I know, your budget's 30 pounds, in which case I say we're going to get something used and we can get something great used that will work really well for you. I'm not really sure how to look on eBay at only used stuff. Wonder, could I go to like UK Amazon? Can I even go to that?
Yeah, you can. And I'm pretty sure you just check the used box on the left side after a search. Like you do a search and then
on Amazon. Let's see what a Radeon 7850. Let's see what those things are going for used these days. Not great. Yeah, not great. Let's see what a 7950 is going for. I don't know what the stock is like in England, so that could be like, yeah, those aren't going for. Those are kind of expensive. A GTX 660 would be another great choice. For the money, Callum, 750 Ti or the 950, I think are your best options because the 950 is going to be faster than all these other cards I'm seeing, even the used ones. It looks like England does not have the awesome prices that America has. So let us know if you have any other follow-up questions, but that's what we would do. And if we're way off on your budget, if you're like, oh, guys, I was thinking about spending 300 pounds, then, oh, okay, cool. But you said you're on a tight budget, so I'm guessing you're not planning on doing that. So GTX 950 or 750 Ti?
Yeah. I mean, we hear tight budget, and we're like, okay, let's just stop thinking like us and just do what we can.
And that will do a lot better than what you're asking for. Like, I think your APU is capable of Xbox 360 quality already, but if you just physically can't play some newer games because you don't have the VRAM or whatever. Oh yeah, that's another thing, Callum. 4 gigs of memory is totally fine. We're using that on the Potato Masher. You are currently sharing that RAM, like that's being used as video RAM as well. So when you get this new graphics card, you should be able to play games you weren't able to before just because you have dedicated VRAM. If for some reason you run into issues with 4 gigs of memory, because I don't know what the memory usage is like on those AMD APUs, like if they use more just by the nature of them having an integrated GPU, and by the way, you need to disable that when you use your other graphics card. But you could add another like 4 gigs of memory onto that. That wouldn't be a bad idea. But anyway, let us know if you have any questions. And then Justin wrote into us. He wrote into us with monitor questions a while back. He was looking at possibly like a 1440p 144 hertz type monitor. We recommended a couple different options. He went with an Asus MG278Q, which was one of our recommendations. He says, it's safe to say I did take your advice on board. 27 inches of IPS 1440p Shenanigans await. Now, if AMD could blow away those 980 Ti's so I can make another unnecessary upgrade for more elitist frames, that would be great. Dude, a Fury X is probably going to be better. 1440p, they're probably pretty close. At 4K, the Fury X would be better. But a Fury would be another great option. Nice, I'm not going to say a budget option, but it's an option. All right, Nathan's next. Hey, you crazy casuals. First off, I'd like to say I'm loving your podcasts. My question's about hard drives. I recently built my first gaming PC, but I purchased a tiny hard drive just to get myself going. I'm currently looking at SSDs, like the 500 gigabyte Crucial BX100 to be specific, but I've had some interest in the hybrid drives, so I could get more space but faster speeds than a normal hard drive. It would be great to get an opinion from a trusted source instead of listening to mixed reviews from the internet, and also any other suggestions for an SSD would be great. I'm trying to stay under $200. Thanks a lot, Nathan. So he needs storage, wants to stay under $200. So the easy answer is you can get tons of SSDs that are 500 gigs for under $200. So if you can spend $200 and you only need 500 gigs, easy. Get that Crucial or get a Samsung 840 EVO, 850 EVO. Any 840 or 850 would be fine.
The Samsungs especially have been on sale constantly for the last few months, like every week, basically.
SanDisks are good. Who makes yours again? Is yours a Mushkin? What'd you get?
Mushkin, yeah.
Mushkin, yeah. Theirs is good. There are tons of good SSDs, 500 gigs under $200. But to answer your question, so a hybrid drive, Dave, can you explain to everyone what a hybrid drive is while I Google some stuff?
Yeah, it's a combination of some solid-state memory and then a spindle hard drive that, as you might imagine, spins. And the idea is the hard drive learns what programs, games, and files you use the most and tries to dynamically move them to the solid-state memory to load them faster. And from what I understand, I don't have first-hand experience with these drives, but it works pretty well. And occasionally, depending on what you use your computer for, it could work really well. In general, though, if you can afford a full SSD with more space, that's your best option. Always keep it simple and just go for the full SSD. But what kind of storage, Jeremiah, do you think you should aim for if you're looking at hybrid drives? Like, would that be the 1 terabyte range? How much do they usually have on them for solid-state memory?
Well, that's the thing, is the amount of solid-state memory. Like, here's Seagate's 4 terabyte gaming SSHD. That's what it's called for a hybrid drive. This is a 4 terabyte desktop hard drive with 8 gigabytes of SSD. It's 8 gigabytes of NAND flash for more speed. So obviously not most of that is going to be, most of that is not SSD. It really is just a small caching drive to speed up certain things. And yes, it is faster than a regular hard drive, but you can't install every single game to it and get like SSD benefits from every single game. Good news is you don't need to, because games by and large are just fine on mechanical hard drives still. Some games really benefit from an SSD in load times and everything else, but honestly, I use a mechanical drive and I never feel like it's slowing me down, except for loading our Arma 3 mod pack. I do load that off of an SSD. That's the only game I keep on an SSD. That's it. Everything else is totally fine.
I think it's just because it has so many small individual files. Being a mod pack like that, I think that's why SSDs matter so much for Arma mods. Yeah. Just my theory, but...
So... if it were me, I would not get this 4 terabyte SSHD, personally. I mean, what would you do, Dave, if this was you? Like, how would you solve this thing? We don't know how much storage he needs. Keep that in mind. But, like, what's the most possible bang for your buck?
Given my experience with a 1 terabyte SSD, the fact that, I am having trouble to fill the whole thing up, I think you can do just fine with a half terabyte. I mean, 500 gigs... that's plenty for your operating system, for your most used programs, and for your favorite games. And like you said, for most games, a spindle hard drive is not the end of the world. So couple that with a nice spindle hard drive, you'll be set. I say go for the full SSD.
Okay, and then the link I'm going to send you, now you know what to do if you want to get the full SSD, do exactly what Dave said. I'm going to propose another thing to you, and I'm going to send you links just in case you want to take a look at it. For that money, you could get an SSD, and then if you have room in your case, just get another mechanical drive to hold the rest of your stuff. Like, there's no reason you can't. You have room. So what I am linking you to is a SanDisk 240 gig SSD for $70, which is a awesome price. And then let's see what's available for 7,200 RPM hard drive. So for $70, we're trying to stay under 200. Let's see. I don't know if he's planning on storing sensitive data on this. I'm going to assume this is mostly for games. So Seagate Barracuda. The reason Dave's laughing is Seagates are the least reliable hard drives, but
I own a lot of them. I do own a lot of them.
I own a lot of them. My recording drive and my gaming drive are both 2 terabyte Seagate Barracudas, because if they die, it's not the end of the world. I lose some raw video footage and I have to reinstall some games off Steam. Like, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
And they're very, very fast. You combine that with this 240 gig boot drive. So install Steam on it, install all your Windows, all your other programs on this boot drive. And then maybe you can install a couple games on it. I mean, you'll have room. And then install everything else on this 3 terabyte drive. And I think that's the best possible combination of speed and storage. But if you don't need that much storage, then you could totally get a 500 gig, like Dave said, and put everything on it, and then everything will get the speed boost. Which games at some point will need that speed boost, but games are also getting bigger. So I'm going to tell you to push more towards larger size unless you know that you don't need it. But, that's your option. And my option comes out to $160. Dave's is just a little more expensive, but it's all SSD. You really can't go wrong with either.
Sweet. All
right. Scott writes in. Hey guys, love the show. I've been listening for a good long time, and yes, I do love the tech podcast. Thanks. I've been building my own computer since 2001. He's got us beat. I don't consider myself an expert. I like to think that I know what I am doing. I've bounced around from AMD and Intel to AMD, depending on what's better at the time for what I want for my budget. I mostly play games on my PC, so when it comes to productivity-related programs, I always recommend a less beefy system. Here's my question. My wife is a photographer and has been doing it professionally for the last 10 years or so. She's been using Photoshop CS2 and Bridge this whole time. Oh, baby. About 3 years ago, I built her a new computer, AMD A10 5800K. That's another one of their APUs. 8 gigs of DDR3 and SSD, decent SSD for what she needed. About a month ago, she says she wants to upgrade to Photoshop CC, Creative Cloud. So after I upgrade her to Windows 10, I switch her over to Photoshop, and after a few days, she starts telling me that it's taking forever to load in her pics and save them, etc. I know it's the processor that needs changing. I know that Jeremiah is also a photographer, so I'd like your input. How multi-threaded is the new Photoshop and Lightroom, and should I be looking for an AMD 8-core or an i5? She'd like to keep it less than $300 for both the CPU and processor. I'm going to guess processor and motherboard is what he means, and he just mistyped. All of her computer's other guts can be reused. I also understand that if I go the AMD route, I'd need to get a video card. But I guess that can be a battle for a different day. Thanks for your help. He said, so I've done a lot of research, but there aren't a lot of comparisons for strictly Photoshop stuff, but I've read that more cores seems to be the ideal route, but then again, I haven't really seen it backed up with real world situations. Thanks again, Scott. So Dave, you also do photography. Do you have an opinion on like Intel versus, I mean, I know you like Intel, but how do you get the most performance out of your Photoshop?
More cores, hyper threading, overclock. I mean, really, it's a combination of everything. And yes, I do recommend Intel for anything productivity. That's just me, but that is my pretty strong opinion.
Yeah. So here's the thing: opening and saving photos is faster if the photos are stored on an SSD. That'll be my first tip. Because like building your previews, opening and saving pictures, especially if they're raw pictures you're converting to something, I keep a small SSD and 120 gig that I do all of my editing on. And that that SSD is backed up to a mechanical hard drive. And then when I'm done, I move the pictures to the mechanical hard drive, and there you go. And having them on the SSD is like 3 times faster in my experience for building previews, making quick changes in RAW. Like if you have to make an exposure change to 300 pictures in a batch, RAW will fly through those if they're on an SSD. So for stuff like that, if you're not editing on an SSD, edit on an SSD. To your other question, what does Photoshop need? Photoshop likes speed. It can use multiple cores, but you get diminishing returns above 4, which is understandable because most people don't have more than 4 cores. So if it were me, I would be looking for a Intel quad core, and if you can overclock it, but for $300 I don't think we're going to be overclocking it. What can we do for $300 that would be a good option? I mean, obviously your AMD processor is going to be much slower than anything we recommend, so that this should help out quite a bit.
Yes.
Now keep in mind, like, if she switched from CS2 to CC, I don't know what cameras she uses, but you do have to switch after a certain number of years because they stop updating camera raw, so you can't read the newer cameras. So she switched from like she's processing 6 megapixel files to she's processing, let's see, 30 megapixel files, which is not that crazy for modern DSLRs, like 21 to 30 megapixel files. They're going to be slower anyway. There's no way around it. Even my processor kind of crunches when I throw like 700 RAWs at it for it to turn into JPEGs. Like, that takes a while. There's no way around it. But if everything's taking a while to open and save and stuff, I will assume that your AMD processor is kind of sucking. So Dave, for $300, what can we find him?
I'm searching. Thank you, PC Part Picker.
It really is the greatest tool ever.
So that's $300 for motherboard and CPU?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's doable. Let's go with new. Let's stick with new for now.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's assume all new. I know he's been building for a while, so he could probably handle it. But some other, I mean, you have to go back a few generations for Intel processors to really become affordable. And at that point, you're losing quite a bit of per core performance. So I think that's what she needs right now.
For motherboard and for CPU, huh? I can do that. Yeah, okay. How about, let me scroll back up here. View your system build. Let's see what we have here. How about a 4690K? And there's more furious scrolling. Looking at motherboards here.
Make sure you're looking at one with an integrated GPU, by the way. Which the 4690K should have one. Yeah, it has one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at motherboards here. We can do one that supports 32 gigs of RAM, has some good reviews. Not a lot of good reviews, like reviews overall, but good reviews. ASRock B85M Pro 4. That's going to be, let's see here.
That's a crappy overclocker, though, that chipset.
Is it?
The B85, yeah, there's no point in overclocking. I mean, that's the thing is he doesn't have money in this build to get like a really nice fan and everything. Let's assume no overclocking. Can you shave some money off if you do that?
Get rid of the K then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think a K is great, Scott. Obviously, we like overclocking, but we're going to have to give you a really crappy motherboard if we also want to get you a like a Hyper 212 or something, some sort of fan you can use to really overclock that processor.
It depends on when you buy. I just picked up a 212 for $30 with a $15 mail-in rebate. Now, of course, you have to wait for that to come back. It does take like the maximum amount of time. It's going to be 10 weeks. They really try to irritate you, but it's possible to get a cooler for pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is, but okay, so we're going to say, I'm going to look on my end to see if I can see anything that, if we could get him a cheap K, that would be awesome. I just don't,
Well, how about this? How about you work on the non-K, I'll work on the K.
Okay, sounds good. Because my first thought is going to be the i5 4430, 3 gigahertz quad core, $180. That's the cheapest thing we can get them.
Yeah.
And then from there, like the next good option is going to be a 4570, 3.2 gigahertz up to $200. Like, that doesn't really make a difference. You don't get him a modern K until that 4690K, and at that point you have to get such a crappy motherboard. Ooh. I don't think it's worth it. And the quad core is more important than higher speeds. What'd you find?
I'm looking into the motherboard now. It's got good reviews. Okay. DDR3 RAM. Yeah, this one's a bit cheaper because well, it is standard ATX. It only has one PCI Express 16X slot. Tell this is not really a gaming motherboard, but we're not looking for a gaming board. Going back to the i5 4690K, an ASRock H97 Anniversary ATX for $67.98, total $297.97.
With a 4690K?
Yes.
And what chipset's that motherboard?
ASRock H97.
An H97, okay. So it's
Anniversary.
It's not a Z97 or a Z87, and for overclocking, those are the ones we'd want.
Yes.
The H97's a good chipset, but at the same time, you're still looking at a K processor, but we're not planning on overclocking it, right?
Without a cooler, I would say no. Yeah. But the option's there. Like I said, you could maybe down the road, you need more performance, you pick up that $30 or $15 cooler, swap it out, and do the overclock for a boost. It's an option.
It definitely is an option. I'm just thinking through this. So as another option, like the thing is, like, for the money, can we really do any better? So the i5 6600 non-K is $229. It's about $10 cheaper. Let me see. Can I find a review of just the 6600? Everyone has reviews of the K version. The K is exactly the same, except for, no, it's 200 megahertz slower, but that'll give me close enough. I'm not looking at overclocking. I just need to look at the stock performance. So I'm going to check out a review of that real quick, because if the per core performance on these is pretty good. So if the per core performance is good enough, it might be worth getting over the 4690K. I'm looking now. The difference is so close, it doesn't matter. Okay. So yeah, there's your choice. If you want to get this, you could overclock it in the future. Honestly, for Photoshop, that may never happen. For video rendering and stuff, I don't know if your wife does any of that. That could happen. And if you overclock it, it will cut down on like some huge filters. Like, it'll make those run a little faster. But honestly, I'm guessing that's not really, like, I'm guessing that's not what she spends most of her time doing. She probably spends most of her time manipulating raw files and using one filter at a time and stuff. And in that case, this will be totally fine. So I'm putting together the list for him. What's the name of that processor? It's an H97. It's an ASRock?
You mean the motherboard?
Sorry, motherboard. Yeah. Is the ASRock H97M micro ATX, or is it a full ATX? I'm scrolling through the list.
Is a full ATX. How about I just link you to the PC part picker page?
That would be 100% fine.
Glorious PC part picker.
Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty good option. So, yep, that comes out to $308 on my end. Which processor? Did you use the 4690K?
Yep, 4690K.
Oh, I thought you said it came out to under 300.
It's showing me shipping only being $3 for the motherboard. I'm wondering which retailer it's picked for the CPU for me.
I'm getting $240 free shipping from Newegg.
I'm seeing $229 no shipping from SuperBiz, but that's probably just because they don't have the shipping for it.
I filter out SuperBiz. I only do Amazon, Newegg, like Micro Center. I only do the biggies. I'm going to link him to the one that has Newegg. Scott, you're a smart enough dude. This will not be a problem. If you want to save a couple bucks, go look up SuperBiz, compare. But like Dave said, if they're not telling you pricing for shipping, there's a good chance that it's going to be money. But either way, this is a totally capable build. You should totally be able to do this. If your wife has a micro ATX case, you can swap this out for a micro ATX board. That's totally fine. The H97 is a great chipset if you're not planning on overclocking. And honestly, for Photoshop, you probably don't need to. Your stock heatsink, also totally fine. And that's what I would do. I'm also giving you a link in the email I'm going to send you to Adobe's guide on optimizing performance in Photoshop. Some of the highlights, they say, use an SSD or the fastest, largest disk you can for working on images. Like I said earlier, that's awesome. And then one thing they mentioned in here, she has 8 gigs of RAM, which is good. More RAM is better Photoshop can use as much RAM as you'll let it have, and you can adjust that in the settings. So if you wanted to throw another 8 gigs of RAM at it, that wouldn't be a terrible idea.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And if you wanted to do that, you could, instead of getting that 4690K, you could get any other Intel processor. Like I'm sending you a PC part picker link. If you remove the Intel processor we included and then click choose processor or choose CPU, it will only show you ones that are compatible with your motherboard. And then just choose one of the cheaper quad cores and use the extra savings, like spend $200 on a quad core, spend the extra $30-$40 on another 8 gigs of memory. That would also be a great way to go. So I would say if you think, hey, I might overclock in the future, keep in mind that motherboard, it will overclock. It's not like it can't. But
Right.
you have a stock heatsink, you're not going to get a lot more out of it. Like you might get this processor to 4 gigahertz and you might be stable at good temperatures. But if you're not at all interested in that, you'll be just as well off knocking it down to a cheaper processor that's not hyper-threaded. Just make sure it's over 3 gigahertz and it's a quad core, and then get another 8 gigs of memory and let Photoshop use more, because it will. And I think that's all for Scott. As always, with everybody, email us back if you have any questions. And then our last one is Grant. Hey, Casual Shenanigans. I email you today for help with a bit of a budget build I'm working on. It's a very simple request. I'm hoping you guys can put together a $450 PC build. I know it's not a huge budget, but being young doesn't exactly pay the bills.
Well, he's not wrong.
The budget needs to include all the parts to a normal gaming PC. CPU, motherboard, GPU, you get the idea. It also has to have Windows 10 or Windows 8. So this might complicate things. Hopefully it won't be too hard of a task. After all, you are Casual Shenanigans. Oh my, I don't know if that name really carries that much weight, but...
Casual Shenanigans, the go-to experts.
This is going to be my first build, so I don't have any kind of spare parts I can use. You may need some things before you put this build together. Grant, thank you. You are giving us all the information we need here. I hope to play most games fairly well at 1080p. I don't mind bumping down the settings as long as the game plays with stable frame rates. I don't mind Intel or AMD, whichever one works for the build. I don't want an ugly case. I've seen plenty of cheap cases that would do fine, but they're always butt-ass ugly. I also want to be able to play games such as Borderlands, Fallout 4, and whatever else. I guess, of course, there'll be more games in there. I just can't think of any I play often enough to make the cut. I also know you guys make a lot of budget builds here in the podcast, but I also know you guys love to put together high-end builds. So when I win the lottery, I'll come back. Anyways, I really enjoy the help you guys offer. Sorry for the long email. Stay casual. Okay, so I sent a follow-up question and asked, does he need a keyboard, mouse, monitor, speakers, etc., or just the working tower with Windows? And
Right.
No, he just needs the tower with Windows, $450. Now, Dave... Does this sound somewhat similar to something we've done before?
It reminds me of some kind of like kitchen utensil, the potato strainer.
It, of course, reminds us of the potato masher.
You drowning over there, Jeremiah? You hoping that line went longer?
So the potato masher, $350 PC, but as a billion people in the comments have pointed out, we did not include the cost of Windows because if you are a student and your school supports this, or if you have access to an old computer lying around, a bunch of other different options, you can get a free or super cheap Windows license. But Grant does not have any of those options. So we have to get him an entire build, $450, that can play games at decent settings. Now, you've seen the potato masher. Can we do that good for this build, Dave, do you think? Right now, putting together a PC part picker link, can we make a build that good?
We have the technology. I think so.
I was actually going to say no.
Really?
Well, okay, so here's the thing that we always recommend people do with and this is what we did with the potato masher. We did not buy everything at one time. We kept our eyes out.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I was a little bit of it like, what's that old thing? You should never ask a question you don't know the answer to. I didn't know how you were going to answer that, but so we bought everything over the course of a couple of weeks, and we kept our eyes out for what we thought were going to be the best deals for stuff. That makes a really big difference when you're putting together an ultra budget build. So we're going to make you a list And then let's do two things, Dave. Let's make a list, and then let's make a nicer list that say, let's go up to $500 and say, if you can get these parts, if you wait and get these parts or parts very similar to this, like it doesn't have to be this brand graphics card. Like if we say get a 950 and that's an Asus and you find a Gigabyte, get the Gigabyte, no big deal. So how about I'll put together the $450 build, you put together the $500 build, and we'll talk about them as we do this, of course. And let's see how good of a computer we can make them. Sound good?
All right, so I'm at which level? And
you're $500 all new parts. I'll be $450 all new parts. So if you can watch out, and that's shipped everything. So if you can watch out for sales and stuff, he should be able to get your build for what my build's going to be. So my build is the option if he can't find anything better. Your build is the option for, hopefully he can.
Oh no, I'm in AMD territory. I'm a lost ship.
I mean, well, yeah, because and then here's another option. So let's each do a build. This is our last email for the night. So let's have some fun with it. I mean, not that everyone else's wasn't fun.
Let's get crazy.
Let's also, once we make him some builds, let's check and see what could we get a new tower for that comes with the Windows license. Ooh. And then throw a graphics card and a power supply into it.
A slick deal special.
A slick deal special, because that's always a perfectly valid option. So, let's start with the sexy stuff. Let's start with a case. I'm going with an Apex SK393.
I'm backing up looking at cases.
It's $30 and it's the most boring case. He doesn't want a quote butt-ass ugly case. This is a pretty boring looking case. Most of the cheap cases want to come with power supplies. We're not putting a power supply in there because you need to get your own power supply that's better quality. So there you go. I highly recommend, Dave, you choose that case as well. Cases aren't really going to go on crazy deals. You can get good deals on things like storage, on memory, on power supplies. You can get good deals on. You're not necessarily going to get that great of a deal on a really, really cheap case. That's just not how the market works. What are you like to?
The Sigma Tech CCM35ABX-U01 Recon Black Steel ATX mid-tower computer case.
When your product photo, when your first one is a computer render, that's not a good sign. And I think this definitely qualifies as butt-ass ugly, Dave.
Yeah. Oh, wow. The quality of just the plastic is grim.
If you do want to knock up to a little bit higher, the Corsair Spec 01 Red ATX mid-tower case is pretty sweet looking, actually. But if we're, again, budget build, should we be spending any more money than necessary in the case? No, it's a case.
Not at all. No.
So,
what was yours called again?
What?
What was your pick again? This list is huge. There's so many ridiculous names in here. I'm trying
if you sort by cheapest.
I'm way ahead of you there.
Shoot, I lost. Oh yeah, the Apex SK393. It's $31.98. It's not a good case.
93.
But everything else is like really ugly.
Yeah.
Although if we go micro ATX, we have more options. Think we should just go micro ATX?
No, because this is, I guarantee you, if this is a first build, it's going to have upgrades.
Yeah, but isn't the case going to be something that gets upgraded?
I mean, maybe.
Because as another option, the Xeon BK Micro ATX mid-tower case is only $24. Yeah. I'm going to get that one.
Okay, I'll stick with your selection then.
Okay. And then it's time for the operating system. Sexy. I'm going to go with Windows 8.1 64-bit. I know Windows 10 is out. But you can get a free upgrade to Windows 10 if you want it. And 8.1's been out long enough. Most of the kinks are worked out. And that's worth a lot. All right. Let me know when you're ready to talk CPUs, this is one of the two major decisions that will guide.
Yes, because I actually need some guidance here.
Well, here's the thing. He's going to play Borderlands and Fallout 4. He didn't say DayZ or Arma, so you know what that means. AMD!
Yeah, I'm there. Definitely there.
Okay, so we need to go cheap because we're buying this brand new. Don't get a G3258. People on the internet, stop recommending the G3258 as a processor. Yes, it's a great processor. No, it's not a good processor for new games because it's dual core, non-hyper-threaded, and it will have problems in the future, absolutely guaranteed, because it has stuttering issues on modern games now. So, if you wanted to go with your cheapest Intel dual core hyper threaded option, you are looking at spending over $100, $117 to be precise. That is not an option. The best Intel option or best AMD option is the FX 6300. In my opinion, that is also too much money because that is $100. So we are going with a budget processor. Stick with me. We are going to go with, scroll. I lost it. The Athlon X4 860K. That is a $59, 3.7 gigahertz, 4-core processor.
Okay.
It's not amazing, but it's perfectly fine. And that is our goal right now, is perfectly fine because he is going to overclock it. I bet you didn't even know you're going to do that, Grant. You're going to overclock this processor.
Well, I was going to ask... seeing I am in deep water and I am lost, the AMD A10 5800K, which is more expensive, how does that compare? Well,
it's an APU, so it's not really a better. I'm not looking at the specs for that one. It's not necessarily a better processor, but it comes with a graphics unit in it.
So that's really just wasted money then. That's not...
For him, it is. Now, I have the lovely bonus. PC Part Picker has just gone down for me. Is it still up for you? Refresh your page.
I'm afraid to.
Do you still have it?
It's down.
PC Part Picker has gone down. All right, so switching.
Podcast over. This is the end of days.
So we're going to do all this on Amazon now. Windows. I'm just going to save a Word doc. Wait, no. We're going to do a Google Doc. I'm a moron. I'm sorry.
A Word doc.
I'm sorry, Dave.
Am I back in college again? What? Let me save my homework to a flash drive.
All right, so I'm going to make a new thing called Grant's Build. Wow. Actually, why am I making a Google Doc? I should make it a Google Sheet. Damn you, brain. I'm not good at Google Drive, if you haven't noticed, Grant. Okay. Grant's Build. This is going to take a little longer. You keep F5 in that PC Part Picker for me. Okay.
Oh, it's spinning. 503. Service not available.
All right. I just shared the doc with you so we can work on it. Let me know when you have it and when you're in here to edit, and we will get going again.
It's like if Gmail is down too, it really is all over. Like, what's left?
Okay, but Gmail wouldn't go down. Don't be crazy.
Oh, I've seen it.
Don't be crazy, Dave. Do you know how to do the auto sum thing?
Yes.
Can you do that?
Yeah, you just select the rows you want.
I'm not looking at what you're doing. Don't even tell me stuff like that.
You click and then you click on sum.
Okay, so we're going to get the Windows 8.1 System Builder OEM DVD, 64-bit, $100. Wow. Look, I'm going to stick links there. Okay.
So we're not going for the gray market Reddit keys for Windows then.
Not for this one. Can you actually move that auto sum down like another 10 things? We got a lot more stuff we got to buy.
Oh my. Yeah, I'm just going to do like, is 20 rows enough for your
20
your majesty?
In case you guys are wondering, yep, this is how it normally goes. So we're doing all this on Amazon because we're lazy. I'm going to go with Micro ATX, so I'm going with the Roswell Micro ATX Mini Tower, which is $30.
You know what? I might look at Newegg. Ooh.
So anyway, back to processors. The Athlon 860K is going to be like the best bang for your buck for under $100. It is $60. It runs on the FM2 Plus platform. It's a very, very solid processor. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. And it's also a black edition, which is the K version for AMD. So let me see, typing there, 860K. Sorry, guys, this part's going to go a little bit slower.
Just the sound of keyboards.
All right, so now we need an FM2 Plus motherboard. And we're going to start like differing from each other a little bit when it comes to other things. Right now, we're all...
When it comes to picking AMD CPUs, I'm just like, yep, that's a number. Let's put that down.
Now, the nice thing about the FM2 Plus platform is here's an ASRock Micro ATX motherboard for $43. And it's a good one. Let me repeat that, Dave. A good motherboard, $43.
You actually can't even look at the Intel logo for $43. The licensing is just ridiculous.
They don't play for that much money. They're not. We don't, you know.
If you have to ask, then you can't afford it.
Let me know when you're caught up. Are you making your own list like on Newegg, or are we just going to do one list now since
we are doing one list because PC Part Picker is down, and I'm trailing along. I'm looking on Newegg for the same parts.
Okay. Because if you find a cheaper part somewhere, we can obviously link to Newegg. That's not a big deal. So, memory, I think we should go 8 gigs. Do you think 8 gigs?
I mean, 8 gigs I think is standard. And once again, if you look carefully and occasionally abuse new customer discounts, I just picked up 8 gigs for $24 shipped, one stick.
I am going to link him to Crucial Ballistics 8 gigs for $39, which is an everyday price.
That is correct.
But yes, Dave's right. If you're looking for deals, you can do better than this. And you're like, oh, but the Potato Masher only has 4 gigs. It does, and it's doing totally fine. But for future-proofing, more is always better, and that is a good option. Okay, so power supplies. So we say don't cheap out on the power supply. That is true. For this build, you will be cheaping out on the power supply because you're cheaping out on literally every single part. But it doesn't mean you have to get total garbage. The EVGA 430 watt power supply is the same one we put in the Potato Masher. We got ours for like $18, $19 on sale. This thing goes on sale a ton.
Yeah, there's one sitting behind me right now just because it was $19.
But it's $37 normally. So if you're going to watch out for a sale on a power supply. Don't get any power supply. Like, again, this cheap EVGA is not an amazing one. But EVGA, Corsair, Thermaltake, what's even going to be that cheap? I mean, Thermaltake, EVGA, Corsair, Seasonic. There's no way a Seasonic's going to be that cheap, I don't think. Those. Honestly, I think you're basically just waiting until the EVGA 430 watts on sale because it's always the cheapest one. The Corsairs are sometimes close to that cheap. PC Part Picker looks like it might be starting to load, but that doesn't matter because we're too far into the process.
It's too late.
For a hard drive, what are you feeling?
I mean, for this build, it's got to be spindle.
Oh, obviously, but I mean, how big? What do you think we should do?
What are hard drive prices like right now? I mean, I feel like we had the great drought, and then it's recovered, but it hasn't recovered 100%. But
the thing is, like, you're at diminishing returns again. I mean, $53 gets you a Western Digital 1 terabyte. That's a 7,200 RPMs. I'm gonna say yes, and then if we can't fit it into the budget, we can't fit it into the budget. But
I'll look for backups just in case.
Yeah. All right, so right now we have Windows, a case, processor, motherboard, memory, power supply, hard drive, no CPU fan, no graphics card. We are at $362. That means I have less than $100 to get both of those things. Not happy.
Huh.
What?
That's just is closer than I was expecting.
Well, I haven't, like, there are ways.
Like, Windows, I think, is really hurting us here.
Well, I mean, but that is a cost people will have. I think we can trim some other stuff.
Okay.
We definitely can trim some other stuff. I'm just kind of, I'm fussing with it right now. So with his budget, a Hyper 212 is absolutely not going to happen. That's $30 we're not going to spend. But what fans will go with an FM2 Plus platform? Not a ton of them, as it turns out. This is where PC Part Picker is really nice because it can auto sort all this crap for you. Well, look, we're gonna say stock fan for now. You can get a little bit of an overclock out of it. We're not gonna mess with that. So before we get a GPU, is there anything we can save money on? So if you keep an eye out for memory, you can probably cut like $8 off your memory. Motherboard, you're not really going to get any cheaper. Processor, not really going to get any cheaper. The micro ATX tower, you can potentially get a little cheaper. The power supply, you can definitely get for almost $20 cheaper. It's like once a month this stupid thing goes on sale. So tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to bold the power supply. I'm going to bold the memory because you might be able to do better on those things. Now, let's see, can we shave some money off for the hard drive? And I'm going to start doing that. Dave, start looking at $100 graphics cards.
I actually had hard drives up at the moment.
All right. I have a frugal option I can talk about, but what do you have?
There are some scary options down at the very bottom of the money pit. How about
so what's scary?
Refurbished Seagate 750? No.
How much money is that?
$28.
For $24, you can get a Western Digital Caviar Blue 320 gig new hard drive, which is the same size we put in the potato masher. You can get that for $23. I mean, that's not
I'm checking terrible. 500 too. Oh, here's a brand for you, Jeremiah. New generic 500 gig hard drive.
I'm good.
Yeah, it looks like even the Hitachi Death Star, which I actually love those hard drives for value. I've had a couple of those that serve me well as backup drives, and one as an internal drive. 500 gigs, still $40. That's not fantastic.
Yeah, like I'm not really seeing any significantly cheaper options. You can definitely find significantly cheaper options. And that 1 terabyte is a very generous hard drive that we're giving him right now. I mean, if it were me, all right, tell you what, Dave, you take the 1 terabyte. I'm going to tell this dude to get the 320. And if he's like, no, I need more space than that, he can decide what he wants to do about it. But
okay,
if it were me, I would just have fewer games installed at a time.
Now, just remember, Jeremiah, one list to rule them all.
Well, we'll duplicate the whole list, and you can swap out stuff that you want to change. Does that sound good? Like for the $500 version?
Yeah,
does that sound
makes
good?
Sense.
Okay. Yeah. And I'll let you make those changes while I'm looking for like a new tower, like a new complete build for him to dump stuff into. So for GPUs, we are looking at like right at $100. So yes. First thing that pops to mind is the 750 Ti. What are those bad boys going for?
Wow. On Newegg, they're quite expensive. This refurb TI 750, which is direct from Newegg, just add to cart like anything else, it's still $95. That's
Yeah, that's about right for one though. I mean, that's not
for a refurb.
For a refurb, yeah, they actually seem to have gone up a little bit on Amazon, surprisingly. So they may not be your miss.
660 super clocked, 2 gig, $99
from Amazon. Newegg.
Oh, never mind. $15 shipping. Well, screw you, sir.
Well, let's see what a GTX 660 goes for on Amazon. That's the thing, though. It's gonna be used, so that means it's gonna vary all over the place. On this build, I'm trying to send him is exactly what he can buy, like right this minute. So I'm gonna see what an R9 270 goes for, because that is also a great budget card.
And would we say no to just the stock 750?
Oh, absolutely no. That card's garbage.
For $100, that's not worth the money.
Thing with with graphics card prices is they can be really fickle. So I'm looking at stuff going, well, none of this was this price a week ago. That's the fun. I need to look up some comparison stuff real quick here.
Yeah.
I use a Nantec CPU bench and a Nantec GPU bench for when you need to do a quick comparison of recent generation cards. Although they have been doing some extensive pruning, actually. A little bit disturbingly. I'm not seeing... Oh, here we go. Because, like, I don't know where a 260X is going to rank along with a 750 Ti. I feel like the 260X is probably better. But I don't know a lot about it. Okay, they go back and forth. It looks like the 260X. They go back and forth, actually. It's pretty dang fair. And what are 260Xs going for? $120 for the Sapphire. What?
Yeah, that's just not quite what we're looking for.
Well, hey,
so much scrolling.
What does EVGA have in the B stock category?
Ooh, let's check that out.
Popping over to the website real quick. EVGA B stocks are like their open box, refurbished, whatever.
Trade-ins if you do the upgrade program too. So some of them could be like barely used.
But they're normally GTX 760 4GB version, $100.
Yes.
Well, and that bad boy is in stock. Warranty, 1 year warranty. Doesn't come with any accessories. Does that mean it doesn't come with another pin adapter? Like for the power supply? Because he is going to need that. We can buy one from Amazon. I'm 100% positive. Let me see. Molex PCI E adapter. Yeah, $3.49.
That is an awesome find. Good call.
Yeah, that's a good 760 as well. This is actually pretty stinking close to the Potato Masher. That's a better graphics card. It's a better version of the 760.
We're in mashing territory. You
are in mashing. For $433, you bet we are. That's where we're at right now, is $433.
Man.
For that money, that 1 terabyte is back on the menu.
Good thing it never left.
All right, look at the current list. Is there anything you think is particularly bad?
Besides me smacking my microphone madly.
All right, James.
I'm trying to rub my beard thoughtfully.
Now that does get us up to $462. But I'm guessing if he can spend $450, he can spend $462. If that's an issue, Grant, knock it down to the 320 gig hard drive. And if that card is not in stock, that GTX 760, let us know. I will look and see what the next best thing they have is. But EVGA B stocks are typically very good cards that are definitely worth spending your money on. Don't just grab one of their other ones, though. Like, if you're not sure, talk to us first. But,
and honestly, if you need to or have the ability to buy a part first, buy that first, because stocks are going to be the most fluctuating with their B stock stuff.
Exactly. Like, definitely a graphics card is one of those things you hop on. When it's cheap, you buy it.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
All right, Dave, can you duplicate that whole build and modify it to $500? And I will look for our other option.
Can do that. I feel like the extra 10 lines were not quite necessary. Here we are.
Just
nope. You know what?
You're breaking that too. Think how long this question's going. No one's listening at this point. Maybe Grant is thinking, oh my gosh, guys, I wanted help, but not this bad.
Joel's like been asleep, woken up, and gotten some water, gone back to sleep. So we're gonna boost it to 550, huh?
500.
Just 5
Remember,
even?
this is if he wants to keep an eye out and try to get parts on sale. We're not just upping the thing. This is parts he can probably get on sale save a little bit of money, do it that way.
Yeah.
I just figured I should rein you in before things got out of control really quickly.
Oh, it does not take long.
And I'm searching for a regular old desktop computer that we can throw a better power supply and graphics card into, and all of a sudden have a pretty decent gaming machine.
I'm thinking about keeping the graphics card, Jeremiah. What do you think?
For $100, you will not find a better graphics card. For anything under $130, $140, you won't find a better graphics card. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with that find.
But this type of thing, it's not going to be in stock forever. That is a really great find. If we sound excited, it's because that's a good deal, and you should not, don't sit on that. If you think it's good, you got the money, buy it now.
With hard drives, you've got a pretty significant jump in price from 1 terabyte to 2. I mean, 1 terabyte, that's a good starting point. I don't think that's...
I would not go, no, don't spend extra money on the hard drive.
Yeah.
If you're going to get stuff cheaper, you're looking at better power supplies or, I don't know, better memory, better
memory's
pizza,
good.
Papa John's.
Jeremiah, I think we have a solid list here. I don't think we're going to find much more on the CPU front because I trust your judgment there and don't know what I'm talking about.
The FX 6300 is the only next logical step. It's not going to go cheaper. I mean, it isn't going to, so.
I think I've said this before, and it sounds like a cop-out, but I say let's stick with this and spend the money on games. Steam sale's coming up,
But
buy some games.
If he wants to wait for a couple weeks, get stuff cheaper, there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine.
Yeah. This is just a really solid list, I think.
I have a really solid option coming up, Dave.
Do you?
So are you going to delete the second list there?
Yeah, honestly, I think I'm just going to clear it out.
All right, so here's another way to build a computer. Buying a refurbished or new desktop computer that already comes with some things like a Windows key. And then you drop a better power supply into it, and you drop a graphics card into it, and all of a sudden you have a cool little budget gaming computer, which has, in this case, a 90-day warranty on the computer, and then whatever parts you add to it will, of course, be worth more than that. So I found a refurbished Lenovo ThinkCentre M90P, which is, to be fair, not a scorcher in stock form, but it has an i5 3.2.
It's also not a looker. I was just looking at the front of this thing. Oh my!
But it's not butt ass ugly, or is it? So it has an i5 3.2 gigahertz.
I mean, you can always cover it with a blanket.
4 gigs of memory, a 250 gig hard drive, and Windows 7 Pro 64-bit. So, but that's for $250. So Dave, we have $200 for a better power supply. I would say some more memory would not be a terrible idea.
You think 16 for a gaming build?
No, but it is 4. So I'd do 8.
Oh, well, that's a good point.
I'm going to check on Tiger Direct, see if there's any other desktops that would also be good. So Dave, can you get that one up to $450 for, power supply? And if you wouldn't mind checking, look at pictures and make sure they're not using any proprietary power plugs or anything. I don't think they are from what I saw.
Okay.
But I would like your second opinion on that. 'Cause that's the thing. Some of these manufacturers, that looks proprietary. Some manufacturers use proprietary
junk, cables, cases, connections. Let's see.
It does look like that case it has 4 RAM slots. It's using 2 2-gig sticks. So,
oh, Jeremiah, that's not going to be fun to work inside of.
Well, nothing cheap is going to be. This is an option. This will be a more powerful computer. We are looking at different computers, my friend.
Are we?
Yeah, look at the link I dropped in the Google Doc.
I opened the wrong link. Yeah, that is not the correct image.
Yeah,
there we go.
I panicked for a second. I was like, holy crap, that is bad.
that was like laptop quality. Here we go. That's what we're looking for right there. That's not terrible. That's functional.
Yeah, so like, 4 RAM slots. We don't know what RAM it is. It's got to be DDR3 because it's an i5. I mean, it's almost guaranteed the DDR3.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can find that out with a quick Google search, but it looks like it's not using a dedicated CPU. It has dedicated CPU power, has motherboard power. That all looks standard. Everything looks totally standard on it, actually. Even the motherboard mounting holes.
Yeah.
Which is fairly impressive. But the main things are, look at that big open space for a graphics card. And
that's not bad.
It really, dude, this is not a terrible build for now, granted, we don't know a lot about the specifics that are inside it, but yeah, so let's see. I will look for a better power supply really quick. We're going to go a little bit better than that EVGA one.
Definitely, with this money, yeah. I'll do the math.
I'm going to go with an EVGA 500 watt, one of their nicer ones, the 500B1.
Okay.
That's going to be $45.
Sounds good to me. I'm going to look. Let's see, what's next? Keep the 8 gigs of memory, you think? They're crucial? For 39?
Well, no, because he already has 4 gigs. And it's a cheap motherboard. You're going to assume it's not going to... It can't take 8 gigs on one slot.
That's true. Now, I don't think we should cross the streams, Jeremiah.
What do you mean?
I don't think we should run 2 weird sticks.
I wasn't gonna suggest that. I was gonna say let's just get him. Let's get him an 8 gig kit. but I'm thinking get it in two 4 gig chunks. So
that poor motherboard. What are you doing to me?
Here, Dave. I'm gonna say this RAM. If you can fill in the pricing details and stuff, I need to Google this computer really quickly, and I want to double check a few things.
All right, that's a URL and a half. 8 gig kit. 2 times 4.
I honestly don't think this is that ugly.
I think it is but ugly.
To each their own.
In fact, I would be tempted to disassemble it and reassemble it in my finest cardboard box rather than look at the front of it.
For the record, I feel like that might be a little bit of an exaggeration. It looks like the processor is probably going to be the i5 750 from the Potato Masher. It could also be an i5 650, quite possibly, but we don't really know. Yeah, it uses DDR3. Okay, that's what I needed to know. So this 4 gig stick, that should be the 2 sticks, should be totally fine. It should take 8 gigs. There's no way I can confirm that 100% for sure, but it definitely should. So in that case, I will... Oh, sorry, I got rid of that thing. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, so now we're at $340. We have $110 for the graphics card. Well, golly darn, wouldn't you just know it? Look what fits right there. That same GTX 760 will fit. So I will recap. Dave, if you wouldn't mind checking all that. First build, you build yourself, Grant. Windows 8.1, Rosewell Micro ATX Tower, Athlon 860K, ASRock FM2 Plus motherboard, 8 gigs of Crucial Ballistics, EVGA 430 watt, Western Digital 1 terabyte blue, GTX 760, B stock. That all comes out, plus a StarTech PCI Express Molex adapter. That comes out to $462. Or you can buy a Lenovo ThinkCentre M90P refurb for $250. You replace the memory with 8 gigs of memory. You add a nice 500 watt power supply. You added that same GTX 760. You are at $440. Does that sound correct?
That sounds correct to me.
Which one of those two would you have? Would you rather have?
The one where I didn't feel like covering the case with a blanket, I think.
I would recommend building yourself too, just because you'll know more and it'll be easier to upgrade the custom built one in the future. And there's more guarantees everything will work together because you never know what Lenovo might have done to this thing. Mm-hmm. So a fresh, clean build is always the best. But either of these computers is good. Either of these is as good or within spitting distance of the potato masher. So if you've seen any of those videos, you'll have a fair idea of what you should be able to expect. The biggest thing will be on the 860K. The processor is not as good as the one in the potato masher for gaming, but realistically, you're not going to notice any huge differences that way. And you know, our build gives you a 1 terabyte hard drive. Their build from Lenovo gives you, I say their build, we found it for them. That only gives you a 250 gig hard drive. So it can be a great option. If you were trying to do a $350 build, I would say buy that Lenovo and then throw a, like a super cheap power supply. I mean, like the EVGA 430 watt power supply and like an $80 graphics card into it. And that would be a great, really cheap build. If you wanted to buy as few parts as possible. If you can build it yourself, $462. Check and see, you know, I'm assuming you're in school. I mean, you say you're young, so if you're in school,
so you claim. This is so accusatory.
See if you can get a student copy of Windows. That would make your life a whole lot easier. Because if you can get that for free, we suddenly have a lot more budget to play with, and we will, you know, we'll trick this thing out even more. But that's it, Grant. Thanks. You have anything else to add to that, Dave?
No, I think that's two pretty good options there.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming out. As always, write into casualshenanigans@gmail.com with your tech questions or things about this show, questions, comments, whatever, this show about Casual Shenanigans, gaming, anything else we do. You can find us on YouTube, iTunes, all that type of stuff. And, you know, we look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll see y'all next time.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.